At every Mass, we have the same dialogue. And we call it the preface dialogue. And I know sometimes I repeat these things, not because I think you guys are ignorant, but in any large group, some will know a lot about liturgy, some will know a little. So I don't repeat things for those of you who know it, and I know many of you do. But so there's always this preface dialogue. The Lord be with you and with your spirit. Lift up your hearts. We lift them up to the Lord. Let us give thanks to the Lord our God. And you repeat, it is right and just. And then the preface begins, and the preface always begins this. It is truly right and just. Our duty and our salvation, always and everywhere, to give you thanks. Right at that, to the Father again. I wanted to look at 4 words in that. And it's not a bad translation, and you know me, I'm not a Latin scholar. I don't claim to know more than the true Latin scholars. But the Latin there, very dignum justum est, equum et salutare, nos tibi semper rubique gratias agere. In other words, very dignum et justum est. Truly, it is dignum justum. And we say right is right for dignum. And that's okay. But I want to explore that word, these 4 words, a little more. Dignum, D-I-G-N-U-M. We get our word dignity from it, dignified, whatever. It's not just right in the sense of it's the right thing to do as opposed to the wrong thing, but it is fitting, it's proper. And the Latin has, these, like a lot of poetry, puts things together sometimes. It's dignum, it's proper, fitting, dignified, and just. Why do those two go together? Dignified refers to us, right? It's the proper thing for us to do. It's fitting that we do it. Because, of course, God is showering us with gifts all the time. And so it's only fitting, it's only proper on our part that we give thanks. But it's also justum, it's also just. In other words, it's also proper from God's end because it's what he's owed, right? Justice is giving to someone what they are owed. So it's not a matter of right or wrong, it's a matter of what's proper. What is the right thing in the sense of right place, our place? And so it's dignum et justum. It's proper on our part and it's proper for God's part, right? So Thanksgiving is not something extraordinary. It's really something ordinary and something that we can expect would be there and should be there, Just, and should, again, not in any moral sense, but in the sense of this is the way things belong, So very dignum et justum est, equum et salutare. Again, there's a parallel here. And the English, and I don't know how they would do it, really. I haven't tried to come up with a praying translation. But equum means to make level. We get our word equal from it. There's an imbalance is the idea. someone gives a gift, there is some kind of imbalance. We make it level, not that we make ourselves equal to God, not equal in that sense, but we balance things by giving thanks. It's, as you know, have you ever said, "Hey, Bob," and Bob didn't say hi back? There's something weird about that, you know? You start to wonder, is he mad at me? Did he not hear me? You know, usually we start there and we say, "Hey, Bob," a little louder, you know. But without that response, there's something out of balance. There's something unequal. Equum et salutare. We say it is right and just, our duty and our salvation. Okay, it's our salvation, but it actually, the Latin means something more basic and more profound at the same time. If something is salutary, we get our word salutary for it. In other words, it brings health. It's good for us. If we want to be healthy, spiritually, of course, speaking, we will be thankful. We will be grateful people. And so it's fitting that we give thanks to God. And it's just that we give thanks to God. And it brings some balance in our relationship with God. And it's to give thanks. And it's good for us to give thanks. How is it good for us? Well, and this is one of the reasons why all over in Scripture, we're commanded, as we even heard today, we're commanded to give thanks. Be thankful. Be grateful. Give thanks. Paul was over and over again in one place, you know. It seems to me to be grateful, to give thanks, saves us from two things in particular to which we are, as human beings, liable to fall. One is to take things for granted. It's funny how if you are not in the habit of giving thanks, thanking people, whatever, it's amazing how you start not to notice the things that people do for you. And I'm guessing we know people, we all know someone like that you practically have to move heaven and earth for them to even notice that you've done something for them, you know. Or not just you, but anybody, you know. And so we can fall into assuming that that's the way things are, you know, taking it for granted. Of course it's there. Of course the sun's rising and we have another day of life. Of course we're healthy. Of course we can walk, we can see. Of course we can hear. Of course we have a job, etc., you know. When there's really no of course about it. There would have been, of course, in some ways, you might say, but for evil to come into the world. But even that, from the moment God said, "Let there be light," gratitude should be pouring from the earth because everything from then has been gift. You know. The second thing where it would save us from to be more grateful and more regularly thankful, more habitually thankful, is that we tend to assume, we tend to think, okay, we've done this. We deserve this because of who we are or what we've done or where we live or whatever it is, both of those things pull us away from God, really, and pull us away from each other. It's good for us to remember that most of the things in our world, in our life, in our particular lives, are a gift of some sort or another. It's good for us to remember that these things don't have to be. We don't have to live in the country we live in. We don't have to live in the city. We didn't have to be born with whatever advantages we have, and there are many. But the sun doesn't even have to come up. And it's good for us to remember that we had nothing to do with the sun coming up. That even though we may at times think we deserve things because we worked hard for them or whatever, we saved our money or we planned ahead or whatever we did, and those things can be true. I'm not saying they're not true. We certainly can use our gifts in ways that bring deserving rewards or whatever. But to think that we have been in charge of all the good things in our lives is to forget about God and put ourselves in God's place, and to forget about the people past, present in our lives. It brings us more isolated, which is not good for us. And so, what happens when we become more habitual about being thankful is that we come into better relationship with God, and we come into better relationship with each other. And yes, you could probably take it to ridiculous lengths, and I'm not proposing that. But how many days in our lives, and I'm guilty of this, how many times have we awakened in the morning, got up, went, took a shower or got our coffee or whatever, and didn't even think about thanking God for the day? And we go along. The first time we think about God is when something's not right, and then we say, why did God let this happen or do this? And it's not that we're evil people. It's just that we have a wounded nature. And so a day like today is a good day. It's not the only day we should be giving thanks. It's like Mother's Day, If the only day in the year you think about your mom and gratitude is Mother's Day, you've got some serious problems. Actually, she might have some too with you. So if this is the only day, of course, we give thanks to God or whatever, or bring gifts for the poor or whatever, then we have troubles, certainly. But it is a day to remind us of the value of it, And hopefully we take it with us then and remember. And then when the next Thanksgiving Day comes around, it's not something out of the blue. It's just the culmination of the way we have become more and more, And so let's take this seriously. We say it every day, and it's so easy when you do things every day that they become habitual and thoughtless, But it is truly, it is truly proper and fitting and part of who we are to give God thanks. And it is just. God deserves our gratitude, deserves our thanks. Not because I did this, now you owe me something. No, just by its nature, a gift calls up within someone, if there are healthy people, gratitude, That's the proper response to gift. And so it is truly fitting for us to do it. It's truly just that God receives gratitude and thanksgiving. It does balance things in a certain sense, just like saying, oh, hello also balances things, And it's good for us to give God thanks. And it's good that we do this, not just once, but it's good that we become this kind of person, that this becomes a regular part of who we are, that gratitude becomes habitual, in other words, becomes a virtue, that thanks becomes something that comes easily to us and regularly. And ultimately, what it does, I think, it makes us happier. To think all the day long about all the gifts that we've been given will affect how our day goes. And I'm sure you guys know the difference between how it feels to complain and how it feels to give thanks for something. And if at first you have to think hard, that's fine. Think hard about things you could possibly be giving thanks for. But the more you come up with, the more you'll come up with, And the more you give thanks, the more thankful a person you'll be. And so let's this day, as we say these words in a few minutes, let them sink in. It is truly right and just. It's our duty, but it's also our salvation to give God thanks. Where? Everywhere. When? Always.